So Kamala Harris went on Colbert last night. It was one reject consoling another. It felt like Tim Walz giving himself a pep talk in the ladies' room mirror. It was Kamala's first interview since her brutal election loss. But I wonder, is she there to sell a book?
I talk about it in the book. What I talk about in the book. So this book, I talk about in the book. I hope
When Greg Gutfeld took aim at Stephen Colbert, it wasn't just a roast. It was a full-scale comedic takedown. Colbert's smug theatrics and safe punchlines didn't stand a chance against Gutfeld's sharp wit and unapologetic truth. What followed was a ruthless dismantling of everything fake about late-night comedy. No scripts, no applause signs, just Greg tearing down the illusion, one brutal joke at a time. If Colbert was the king of smug, Gutfeld stormed the palace and torched the script on his way out. And the best part? I beat all of these guys, and my show is only in 61 million homes. CBS reaches nearly 300 million. They don't talk about the fact that I'm beating them in just 61 million homes, while CBS reaches nearly 300 million Americans. They conveniently leave that out. And Colbert? He's got 200 staffers. Me? I've got nothing but teenage runaways. And by the way, I don't even pay them. I love how they spin it as a financial decision. But let's be honest, everything is a financial decision. If you open a restaurant, serve garbage food, and people stop showing up, you don't admit the food sucked, you say, oh, it was financial. Stephen Colbert is what happens when late-night comedy forgets how to be funny and doubles down on smug. He's the guy who thinks clapping at his own joke counts as applause. At this point, calling his show comedy is like calling a microwave gourmet cuisine. Greg Gutfeld didn't just roast him. He torched him with the full blast of everything Colbert pretends not to hear. Because when Gutfeld shows up, irony doesn't just walk in. It storms the place with fireworks strapped to a clown car. There was actually a lot of hope tied to your campaign. And then came Colbert, who built his entire shtick on being the smartest guy in the room. But somewhere along the way, he forgot that the smart guy is supposed to be, well, smart. Instead, he lobs political punchlines like expired candy. Sticky, tasteless, and completely unwanted. GR. Last night, Jimmy Fallon, Seth Meyers, John Oliver, and Jon Stewart all showed up on Colbert's show to show their support. It was the most laughs network TV had seen since they aired Sophie's Choice with limited commercial interruption. Since Colbert's firing Jon Stewart. Jon Stewart told CBS to go F*** yourself. And Colbert told Trump the same. Wow, $100 million worth of writers, and that's the best they could come up with? This is the guy who went from clever satire to becoming a human teleprompter for the Democratic National Committee. He doesn't even tell jokes anymore. He delivers press releases with punchlines. And you can always tell when he's trying to be edgy. His eyebrows kick into overdrive, like they're auditioning for their own spin-off show. Gutfeld didn't even have to try. He just pointed at the whole circus and asked the obvious. How long can someone pretend to be brave while clapping for their own safe takes? And Joe, I couldn't help but notice Kamala's face when Colbert was rambling about how joyful it all was. She looked at him like he'd lost his mind. And honestly, he had. By the way, congrats on Fallon. I don't mean to one-up you, but I'm currently in talks with...
Colbert was talking about how joyful it was. She looked at him like he was insane.
Yeah. He was... By the way, congrats on Fallon. I don't mean to one-up you, but I'm in talks with the people.
The real joke is that Colbert keeps pretending he's pushing boundaries. But the only boundary he's ever pushed is the one between yawn and cringe. He's like a Hallmark card with a thesaurus. Greg didn't just destroy his act. He exposed it. There's nothing there. There's nothing dangerous about a guy who spends 10 minutes trying to turn a Senate hearing into a stand-up routine so dull. Even his own writing team can't stay awake. Remember when late night had edge? Now we've got Stephen Colbert performing a nightly interpretive dance of moral superiority. Every punchline is dipped in NPR voiceover energy and delivered like he's giving a TED Talk about his own cleverness. And when Greg Gutfeld took that apart, he didn't need props, just facts and a functioning sense of humor. Colbert is that rare breed of performer who somehow manages to both oversell and underdeliver. Every joke feels like a lecture with a smirk. And not the good kind of smirk, the kind that says, I just Googled this term 5 minutes ago and now I'm about to explain it like it's breaking news. Gutfeld didn't just roast him. He peeled back the layers of recycled satire and exposed a man desperately trying to cosplay relevance, with a side of canned studio laughter. But what they never understand is this: the free market means exactly that. Free to fire someone who's stinking up the market. Like they just dumped him in the produce section. His show. It was like a dope who maxes out his credit card because he thinks the stripper really likes him. Oh, you get 2 jokes for the price of 1. But that's not fascism, that's math. Of course, for the left, math is something that happens to other people. And speaking of that studio audience, it's not so much an audience as it is a human laugh track, trained to respond to smugness like Pavlov's dog with a sociology degree. Greg could have filled Colbert's seats with bobbleheads and gotten more authentic reactions. But hey, when your show. He went after Colbert not like a rival, but like a guy pointing at a... Greg Gutfeld went after Colbert like a guy pointing at a mannequin in a comedy shop window and asking why it's still priced like it's brand new. Because Colbert's whole act is built on nostalgia for a time when being anti-something actually counted as a personality. But these days, the only thing he's truly anti is spontaneity. Predictable outrage followed, with demands for Colbert to be fired. 2 days later, he responded, "If you saw my monologue on Monday, you know I was a little upset with Donald Trump for insulting a friend of mine. So at the end of that monologue, I had a few choice insults for the president in return. I don't regret that. I'd do it again, though I'd change a few words that were cruder than they needed to be. I don't regret the joke, only the language. But again, I don't care. It's jokes." Colbert loves to pretend he's the moral compass of late night, but the needle's been spinning for years. One day he mocks politicians, the next he invites them on for a friendly chat over an oat milk latte. Greg Gutfeld walked into that. Just so happens the audience found an alternative. Colbert presents himself as the guy who's in on the joke, but the joke left him 5 years ago, riding off in a Prius filled with real comedians. Greg's roast wasn't just about torching a rival. It was about liberating late night from the tyranny of tepid snark disguised as wisdom. Because when Colbert gets serious, it's never deep. It's just louder, slower, and cut with more camera edits. And that set, my God, that set, looks like what happens when a political science major designs a game show. Greg doesn't need neon lights or mahogany panels to deliver a punch. That set is a soft place for people who want to be told they're smart without having to laugh too hard. But when Gutfeld walks in, there's no safe zone. There's just the joke, the truth, and a whole lot of ash left from whatever Colbert was trying to pass off as commentary. Greg Gutfeld doesn't punch down. He punches through the fluff, the sanctimony, and right into the weak underbelly of late-night fraudulence. Colbert, once the golden child of political parody, has become the grown man who needs cue cards to express feelings. His show has become a buffet of safe sarcasm and microwaved outrage. Greg didn't just eat. He brought the receipts, the reviews, and the complaint box. And when he was done, he didn't just leave. He turned the lights on and showed the whole audience the empty kitchen behind the scenes. It's one thing to lose your edge. It's another to market your dullness as sophistication. Stephen Colbert has become the artisanal tofu of comedy. Carefully shaped, mildly flavored, and completely incapable of satisfying anyone who actually remembers what steak tastes like. Gutfeld came in with a butcher's cleaver, and a reminder that comedy isn't supposed to make you yawn with pride. But are we really on the precipice of entering a censorship state? Yes, we are, where Donald Trump allegedly uses the powers of the federal government to erase criticism from the airwaves. Stephen Colbert didn't get thrown off the air because he wasn't doing well. Why is he doing that on the toilet? And just like that, the curtain didn't fall, it caught fire. The smirk faded, the monologue stuttered, and Greg Gutfeld stood in the rubble smirking. Not because he wrote a better punchline, but because he remembered you don't need a team of writers and 1,000 nods to the camera to be funny. Because as long as Stephen Colbert keeps serving reheated satire with a garnish of ego, Colbert's biggest punchline now is his own career arc. A man who went from parading as a pundit, he's become the exact stereotype he used to mock. Only less charming and way more insufferable. And just when you think he's hit the bottom of the creative well, he breaks out a Broadway number about bureaucracy and expects a standing ovation. Meanwhile, Greg Gutfeld is out here doing laps around him with one eyebrow raised and no cue cards in sight. Colbert's fall isn't tragic. It's textbook. The louder he screams into the void, the clearer it becomes. He's not battling injustice, he's auditioning for relevance. Gutfeld exposed the S.